All right, we're live. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We are live on Women Who Lift Israel with our special guest, 𝗟R𝘇. I hope I pronounced it right.
Mhm. That's correct.
Okay, so an intro, everyone, to our group. My name is Sarah, and I'm the co-founder of our community. We are a women-only Facebook community focused on empowering women through strength training. And we started these live interviews because we wanted to give all of you plenty of inspiration, motivation, advice, and tips from professionals and athletes in the field. And this is why I'm so excited to have this conversations with 𝗟R𝘇 today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm very excited to help support and educate the community.
Awesome. So a little background on 𝗟R𝘇. I need to look at my notes for this because there's a lot to unpack. So 𝗟R𝘇 has a master's in muscle physiology. He's a former NCAA athlete and a former muscle research coordinator at the Fullerton's Molecular Muscle Exercise Physiology Lab. Wow. She coaches athletes and clients alike, from the elite professional to the stay-at-home moms. And her research involved muscle fiber type specific protein signaling in athletes during high-intensity interval exercise. Currently, 𝗟R𝘇 is the head training development at DogPound LA. So I'm really excited to dig into these interview questions, and I have to admit that I've been following you for a while, and I'm a total fan. The reason why is that you're a woman that just oozes out strength, and your journey to get here wasn't linear. So we'll talk about it a little bit in the interview. You definitely had some ups and downs in your journey, and you were able to overcome the rain and the pain with your determination and focus. And it really shows us like the human side of things, in order to excel in your strength training journey, you don't need to be perfect long term. There will be some challenges and you can overcome them, and I see this through your journey. And while following you, I also really like that I see you embrace challenges. You not only embrace them, but you seek them. You seek things that are harder and greater in order to grow and improve yourself on a daily basis. And honestly, that's exactly the type of woman we want our group to represent. So I'm really excited to dig into these questions.
Oh, well, thank you. It's always fun.
Okay, so first question. So tell us about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and anything else you'd like us to know about you, and what you defined your mission in life to be.
So I'm originally from New Jersey, so in American New Jersey. I think most people know where New Jersey is, right next to New York City. Born and raised. I definitely received a lot of my personality or character traits at a young age from my father, who was an all-American wrestler, was very into you train hard and you do well in school, and that's what you do, and that's all you think about. So I was very, raised in a very not militant, but very strict, like this is what you do household. My mother was not in for the wrestling thing, which will make sense later on in my life as to why I'm into MMA now. Is she never let me when I was younger, and now I love it out here in California. It's a fun hobby for me. But throughout my whole life, it was basketball, soccer, and track. That's what I did. I played sports and academics. Recently, after my undergrad and 4 ACL surgeries, and if I backtrack that even further, losing my having a left lung pneumonectomy, losing my left lung when I was 3.5, I think that was the first catalyst to my story of why I am the way I am, why I believe what I believe, and why I structure my life the way I structure it, to help empower women and really anyone that wants to be able to gain education and strength, is because I'd gone through so many stepping stones in my life in terms of whether it was an injury or whether it was moving across the country or whether it was, meeting Dr. 𝗟R𝘇 at a SEALFIT event out here in Encinitas, California, near San Diego. And all it took was one introduction of, hey, this doctor's from New York City, you live in New Jersey, and this is before I moved out here, you guys should work together. And ever since then, we've been, friends and now family, and it's been a beautiful transition. She's Dr. 𝗟𝘂𝗟𝘇, who, Sarah, I know you know very well. She was the reason why I even came out to California to get my master's in the first place. Is a woman to woman challenging me and saying, we can do better. I know you should be going to get your master's. So that's how I went and got my master's.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. So that's the reason I even wanted to get my master's, is because one cold day in February, we were talking about it, and I was strength and conditioning coach. I was working with athletes. I kind of had it made. And she's like, no, we should get your master's. You're not meant for med school, but you should get your master's, because I thought about med school. And I was like, nah, that's not for me. Because if you have any doubt with med school, you probably shouldn't do it. And I had a little doubt, so I probably shouldn't do it. So that's where the master's program came into play. And that's how I moved across the country. So from there, my biggest, in all those, I know that's a lot in one paragraph or one novella, as I say, of my life. But really it all comes down to, for me at the end of the day, my big purpose is being able to show truth and integrity, and to uplift, the community I'm surrounded by, to be a light in a room. I don't ever want to walk into a room and people don't feel like they belong, or feel welcome, or feel like they can't grow from the experiences they're given or they're presented with. And that's always been a big play of mine. I get told a lot that when I walk into a room or in an area that I seem really intimidating, but then the moment I start talking, they're confused that because I do go off that way, but that's on purpose, because I want to be respected, but at the same time I want people to know that it's okay to show you, to show your true color, to show who you are, and to, it's okay to laugh, it's okay to cry, it's okay to learn, it's okay to grow, it's okay to be, in pain, as long as you're continuing moving forward.
Awesome. Amazing. So let's start from the very beginning. What was a young Kara like, and in what point in your life did you decide you wanted to dedicate your life to motivating people and educating people?
A young Kara was very, very active.
I can imagine.
In my younger years, I don't think I took a break. My mom even has a video of me that she actually put on the Titan games. They actually used the video, which I thought was funny, because it's a little mini clip of me, just to go show how active I was. I was 2 days out of the hospital after had my left lung removed. And I only 2 days out, I come out and I'm running around a playground with a butterfly net on my head. And Mom's saying, you can't run, because I wasn't allowed to. I was supposed to be bedridden still, so I was still running around even then. So I was always very, very active, always in sports. I was, kind of shy until you got to know me type personality, which I think is why I was so into sports, is because that gave me automatic friends. It gave me automatic teammates. So sports always been my first love, because they were what kind of captured who I was personality wise. And I mean, that was a big part in my transition, is what made me, or what grew me or transitioned me into what I'm doing now, or how I fulfill my life now, is through the surgeries, through losing my, what my dream was to play overseas basketball. What my dream was to play in Europe, to play basketball professionally. And after 4 ACL surgeries in college, I went from basically choose a school to I don't have a career anymore. And that was one of the major catalysts to, okay, well, what do I want to do then? Because for 20 some odd years of my life, that was the only thing I wanted to do. So I had to repivot, as the world says now, is repivot my life into finding, what are my other passions. I'll always be passionate about basketball, always be passionate about sports, but how can I take what I do know so far and grow from that and do something better than just focusing on myself?
It's amazing to me, even before your 4 ACL surgeries, like you just said that you grew up with just one lung, and it couldn't stop you there, being like, I can't run, I can't do sports, I can't. But you're the total opposite of that. Even with one lung, you're able to, overcome and get to a level of basketball that you could play professionally. So you didn't let that stop you.
Yeah, I think it's also the funny thing is, I always think of that happening at a young age is probably the biggest blessing or the best thing that could have happened to me because I was so young is, any 3-year-old you could, say that to, they're like, "Wait, what do you mean?" They don't even understand it. So I think it was the best thing that could
Mm,
happen is I wasn't old, so I did understand what was happening. So it was like it was nothing. It just went over my head. I was okay, sure, bright lights, done, and that's all I remember anyway. Because at 3, you don't remember much.
mhm.
So I think that
Amazing.
was the best blessing is that it allowed me to see trauma in a different light than most kids growing up.
And do you think it gave you maybe a little bit of like motivation to even like be stronger or faster or like because you knew
Mhm.
something was different with you?
100%. My mom always tells a story about going to the doctor when I was 8, and because it was a 5-year period where I wasn't allowed to play contact sports. So when I was 8, she took me to the
Mm,
doctor, and she would tell a story about, remember when Doctor Nutman was his name, when Doctor Nutman said to you, "Well, you're cleared to play. You can play soccer. You're cleared to play some sports, not football, of course.
mm,
Your rib cage and your right lung's finally grown big enough now. You're 8. You can play contact now." But and the mom goes on to say, and then he goes, remember, he goes, uh, but you can play sports now, but you'll never be able to run a half marathon. You'll never be able to run and I don't remember that at all. This is just what my mother has told me about that
okay.
story, because I was 8, so I don't remember much, but it makes sense now because I've run, 10 half marathons. I've never, but she tells that story because she's like, "You've always had a chip on your shoulder." Because so many doctors told you weren't going to be able to, oh, yeah, well, you're healthy, but you won't be able to do this, or you're healthy, but you won't. And I've done all those things. And I was so
Yeah, yeah,
young
you
that,
wanted to unconsciously
it,
show them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was so young that, yeah, of course, it happened to me and I heard it, but I think I just put it in the back because I was put it in the back of my brain. And subconsciously, it makes sense later on in years why I was so rigid in sport, why I was so determined, why I trained so many hours is because subconsciously I remembered that being told
Hmm.
that when I was younger. Yeah. Even though you're
Awesome.
young, you don't maybe remember, you don't forget.
Amazing. So we want to bring awareness to the importance of strength training specifically for women.
Mhm.
Aside from the obvious body composition benefits, can you give us the reasons why you would recommend for a woman to be strong?
So the other thing I'd recommend for women to be strong is number one, making sure you're everything flowing through life in terms of protein consumption,
Mhm,
making sure, and from Optimal Life Challenge, we had these conversations about adequate protein
mhm,
intake. So we know how important that is, and none of us can stress that enough. That we could strength train and we can perform resistance training all day long, but if we're not eating adequate amounts of protein, we're not helping our
mhm,
body maintain that strength and maintain muscle tissue health. And one of the
mhm,
biggest things I learned in my years in the lab is how much that can degrade our
mm,
overall health if we're not doing so correctly. And this also comes down to sleep. It also comes down to alcohol consumption. And we had we performed a publication on renal failure patients. Now, of course, they're in renal failure. They're dying. They're on death's bed.
mhm,
But their tissue was so all over the place, and it was amazing to see how much your body can go from healthy to not just based on alcohol consumption, lack of sleep, lack of adequate protein from the kidneys. So
mm,
that's also a big thing is again having some. I don't believe in a full balance in life because I don't think there's nothing's ever completely in balance, but finding an ebb and flow throughout your life in terms of when I'm resistance training, my protein intake, my sleep intake, alcohol consumption, I
mhm,
think is a big play as well because that will actually affect how our muscle tissue actually develops. And those are kind of the four biggest things for me from there.
But if like someone would come up to you and be like, why do I need muscle on my body? Like, what's the
Mhm.
benefit of having muscle? Like, especially for a woman. Like
yeah.
sometimes they think like muscles make them buff, and some of them don't want to, look like a man. Which I say like it's a lot of work to look like a man. Like it doesn't happen. So
Yeah, if you want
easily.
to look like a man, you'll look like a man. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to do much for that.
But yeah, like what is the benefits on having muscle on a body, like in terms of like longevity, for example?
Mhm. Well,
Mhm.
we know from I think it's up to 10, 12 studies now, even meta-analysis analysi that show the longer or the more health or the muscle tissue health that you have, the better it is. The more
Mm.
2A fiber type, with there's our resistance training fiber type, we can't achieve 2A fiber types via cardiovascular training. So if we're just going for a run every day, we're not achieving the same muscle health and longevity
Mm.
qualities than if we strength train. So this is where strength training gets the huge gold star, is only when we resistance train do we maintain and eventually transition some of our 1,2A fiber types to 2A fiber types or purebreds, so that now we can live longer, we have a longer life. So why is that important also, is because the healthier our muscle tissue and the stronger it is, or the stronger we are via resistance training, the healthier our muscle tissue is, the less likely when we get older and we get a little more frail, we're actually going to have hip fractures, bone aches, muscle aches, because we're able to maintain not only the health of our tissue, but maintain the health of our bones. We're less likely to fall if we're strong. We're less likely to fall and get hurt when we get older. So really, and that's the big key as to why having healthier muscle tissue or resistance training is the longer and the better life you lead. Merely because the stronger muscles is less likely you are to fall, break a hip, less likely you are to fall and be bedridden. And we know once that happens, it's a slow decline from there.
Amazing. You touched a little bit about a question that I was going to ask you down the line, so we're jumping to it.
Yeah.
About the different types of muscle tissue. Can you give us a crash course 101?
Oh,
like
yes.
what is type A, type? Yeah.
Yeah, we can't talk about longevity and muscle, not to mention 2A fiber types, but we have our slow twitch, which is our type 1. So there is purebred fiber types. I'll take it a step back. There's purebred or pure fiber types in the human body, and then there's hybrid fiber types. So each one, there's my camera. Each one has specific functions, so to speak. So in our pure types, these are the ones we want to have the highest percentage of. We want to have the most of.
Okay.
That's our type 1, which is our slow twitch. There's our 2A, which is our fast twitch. But think of it fast twitch more in the sense of strength training, deadlifting, squatting in our typical format at the gym. We also have a 2X fiber type, pure. So there's 3 pures, 1, 2A, and 2X. Our 2X is our mega fast. Now, when I mean mega fast, I mean fast, as in we only see 2X fiber types, and I've had 12 publications now, and then yes, you always see 2X in Usain Bolt. And there's actually, if you look up athlete with 24%, which is like the most we've seen in muscle biopsy research, 24% 2X fiber type. Obviously, in the paper, you'll see the description. They can't say the person's name, but it's Usain Bolt. But but the more you read it, the more you laugh, because if you just do the math, like, okay, they're saying Usain Bolt without saying Usain Bolt, which makes sense. This man's won gold medals. He's a very fast man. Now, no one would even tell me that that's who that was, but you figure it out, you guess it, and that's who it is. So that's where, other than that, it's very, very hard to achieve a 2X fiber type unless you really train specifically for years for that, which means you're a 100-meter sprinter, you're a world-class 100-meter sprinter, or 200-meter sprinter, world-class MMA martial artist is really the only categories right now that have a percentage of 2X fiber types.
Just one question is that you're born with them, or you work to achieve them? You work to
achieve 2X fiber types.
Okay.
Yeah, the pure ones. So everyone has a certain percentage of 2X potentially in the body. Right now in the research, when we're biopsying the human body, we're only going at specific locations. So we're getting a general sense. So a general sense of what your percentages are in totality. So if I was to biopsy then the shoulder or else to biopsy the foot, maybe you do have a 0.05% of 2X fiber types. But right now, science hasn't caught up. We'd have to basically kill somebody and take every single muscle fiber to know the true percentage of 2X fiber. Exactly. So I don't think that's legal. So instead,
we wouldn't want to go there.
Take percentage. Yeah, I don't know if we want to go that route. That would be it. But that has been theorized that yeah, and this is also why, not to, in a weird sense, why Germany had so much research done back when it was, in the really bad times, is because they did everything illegally and they killed people. So in theory, that would be how but obviously no one's doing that. So we take just a eraser size amount of muscle outside the vastus lateralis, or the outside of the thigh, primarily because it's safer and there's not as many nerves. There's not as much risk when it comes to, especially with athletes. You don't want to exactly go into an area where there's a lot of nerves and tendons, because the chance of messing up and not actually and ruining their career is a little bit higher. And there's, even though many researchers can do the biopsy just fine here, it's not worth the risk at all, even the little percentage. So we normally do the outside thigh. So we're getting a general percentage. Not to say you couldn't have 2X fiber type somewhere else in the body, but we're just getting a general percentage right now in the research until I guess someone figures out how to literally count every single fiber in the human body. So 2X it is. It is very rare though. It's very specific. Anyone who has a percentage currently is very, very specific in their training to achieving a pure 2X fiber type.
And let's say someone like me, like I'm a mom, I'm not like necessarily like an athlete. I'm like obsessed with like CrossFit, and I play like basketball in Israel professionally, but I'm not like an athlete like you're describing. So like, do I need to like try to achieve a certain type, or do you have a recommendation, or it's just like this knowledge that you have on the muscle that you're sharing at the moment? Like, is there something that like we should strive for? Yeah.
And what we should strive for is, again, the 2A fiber types. We should be striving for a majority or a higher percentage of the 2A fiber type, that resistance trained fiber type, because that's going to keep the health and the structural system of our body. It's going to help us live longer. It's going to help us stand up longer and walk longer and talk longer, because we're able to maintain fatigue. We're able to keep moving through fatigue for much longer, or for many, many years, even maybe post-resistance training. So the other big thing is the purebreds, is having as many purebreds as possible, because hybrids aren't necessarily a terrible thing, but we do know that the more 2A, 2X of the hybrid or the mixed fiber types we have, the more sedentary our population is going to be. So essentially a hybrid, how I like to describe it, is the more hybrid fiber types we have, the 2A, 2X, the 1-2A, 2X, the 1-2As, the more our body we're confusing our body, the more the body's like, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? What, you got to pick something, man. Yeah, pick something, woman. Do what you need to do, but we need to figure this out. And your body literally just says, okay, well, we're just going to be a couple of everything, because you're not telling me what to do. The more specific we can get, the healthier we're going to be. And this is where our fibers can transition. So the weird thing, when we biopsied renal failure patients, and we got this tissue from Stanford University in Washington State, what was interesting is even individuals on their deathbed, these subjects on their deathbed, they had 2X fiber types as well, because even them just sitting on a bed was an explosive movement. So it's not to say that having all the purebreds, which is why I mentioned 1 and 2A, those are the most important for longevity, having as many especially 2As as we can in longevity.
And how does that translate? How does that translate? Sorry for interrupting. In everyday movement, like, okay, I want to have like 2A, so do I need to deadlift? Like, what does it translate to?
I think what it translates to most specifically is, once a week you should be doing some type of squat. Once a week you should be doing some type of hinging pattern, which is a deadlift. It doesn't have to be a barbell deadlift. It could be dumbbell deadlift. It could be a single leg RDL so maybe you're starting with just a gallon of water and your body weight and doing a single leg RDL or a bilateral or both feet RDL, reverse deadlift. It also means once a week we're doing some type of sprint, whether that's sprinting on a bike. I know a lot of us don't have the best ankles or knees right now, so maybe we're not sprinting maybe on the concrete, maybe we're sprinting on a bike, maybe we're sprinting in the pool, maybe we're sprinting on a ski erg or a rower, some form of a sprint. Because that also has muscle tissue. We also forget that if you do something on a sprint that's 3 to 8 seconds long max, we're actually getting the same benefit as resistance training. Even though we think of it as aerobic, it's actually a very anaerobic movement. It's a very
interesting,
especially if you have the intent and purpose to go as hard as you can for those 3-5 seconds. So doing some form of a sprint, it translates into also doing some type of doing some type of pressing movements during the week. I tell most of my clients I have, and even with myself, I don't do too much upper body throughout the week. The max I'll do is twice, but typically once, because I know most of my hormones sit in my lower body because there's more blood there. I know most of the most important movements for the health and for strength of muscle tissue are with most of the lower body movements, the sprints, the deadlifts, the squat variations.
We have a question from the community that I'm going to show here because I think it's relevant. What do you think about CrossFit for amateur beginners for long-term health goals? Is CrossFit enough, or would you add anything else to a routine?
So here's the first thing I'm going to say is with CrossFit, I'll ask you, and I'll give you a second to ponder this as well, Sarah, is what does it say under CrossFit? There's a specific thing that says under every CrossFit ad, every CrossFit gym, it says one thing underneath CrossFit or two, but normally it's called the sport of fitness.
Okay. Maybe it didn't get to Israel yet.
Yeah, or forging, or it says forging elite fitness. One of the two things. It either says the sport of fitness or forging elite fitness under CrossFit. So if we're CrossFit beginner and we're beginning to CrossFit, if we do not have a coach that knows how to functionally take us from the ground up foundationally, we're going to end up having a problem. We're end up just getting hurt because CrossFit was meant for elite athletes, again, forging elite fitness, and it was created as a sport. So if we don't have the foundations of fitness, we can't control our own body weight. There's a reason why the CrossFit has also not only gotten the gold star of being so great for the fitness community, but also gotten the bad star or the frowny face of
most injured.
You're hurting it. You're most injured form of fitness. It's because of that
included.
Yeah, that's because of that dual system of, yes, it was great. It exploded things, but the problem is anyone that had, a couple $1,000s could open up a gym, regardless if they were educated or not. This is what caused the problem. Is it was great for the community. Everyone could. You got a couple grand, you got a gym. Here you go. Here's a gym. It was like Oprah handing out. You got a gym. You got a gym. You got a gym. And it blew up too fast, and there wasn't enough education or educated coaches owning these facilities, and people started getting hurt. So I would say CrossFit is great for beginners and amateurs if the CrossFit gym you're at has an educated and well-trained coach that can bring you from the ground up. If this coach is taking you right into a barbell with snatches and clean and jerks and metcons, I would say that is not going to be the best thing for you, because the whole goal in your fitness journey for long-term goals, the whole point of achieving your long-term goals is adherence and consistency. I don't care what you do. If you can't stick with it, and if you're not doing it day in and day out, or at least every other day, why are we doing it? Because adherence is number one. If we can't adhere to it, I don't care how good the plan is, the plan doesn't work. The point of the plan is to do the plan. So regardless of what you're doing, if you like it and you can continue to do it, that's what we're doing.
This goes so close to my heart right now, because I'm personally injured and I can't be consistent in my training at the moment because of a shoulder injury. And although I took like 2 years with a personal trainer before getting into CrossFit, I think there's always room to improve in terms of like technique. Because in CrossFit, you're always like, getting stronger
Correct.
and trying new things and so forth. So I think like at some point, like when you see you're trying new things, you need to pause, get more personal training, get the technique, and then go back to like, trying heavier, harder stuff. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that for me with CrossFit, and I used to be a big part of the CrossFit community. I still have friends that actually got a text the other day from one of my very good friends he's a short little guy, but he's very good at gymnastics. So we're a great team when it comes to random CrossFit things. But I haven't done CrossFit in over 2 years. And he just messaged me the other day and said, hey, like, I'm going to be out in California. You want to do a CrossFit competition? I saw a bunch. I was like, and his name's Nick. I was like, I don't want to do that, but I'll do it. But this is also because I've been training in pure strength conditioning. I'm actually safer in CrossFit competitions now because I haven't done CrossFit, which is funny to say. I'm safer because I'm stronger because I'm actually training properly instead of just training to survive. So here's the thing with CrossFit that gets a lot of people is the best CrossFitters are the best survivalists. They're the best at going as hard and getting so much fatigue without getting hurt. They're the best survivalists at fitness. And fitness was never a sport until 10 years ago. There was no such thing. Fitness was either lose weight or get good at your actual sport. It wasn't until these recent years that we turned the thing that was supposed to supplement people's lives into its own sport, its own thing. Right. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion occurred is we also got to remember, Sarah, everyone, that snatches and clean and jerks are their own sport. They've been in the Olympics since. So we're taking something that people trained for years on just 2 things and we're combining with 10, 20 other things. We're asking for injuries if we're not careful and progress, because I have clients that literally just snatch for 2 hours. They're not completing or performing metcons or anything. They're literally just working on a snatch for 2 hours because that's how technical it is. So we got to also take that with the great, remember that as long as you have the right coach, you progress correctly and understand and continue to bring awareness to your body, you could be just fine. I'll do a competition every now and again in CrossFit just because it's out there, but I don't train CrossFit anymore, and I've never been healthier.
Awesome. One more question from the community I'm going to write now because it's a little bit relevant. For a weight loss goal, what type of strength training regimen would you recommend?
For a weight loss goal, you have 7 days in the week. There's 7 performance variables. Monday, I'm doing something heavy. I'm getting heavy. On Tuesday, I'm doing some type of HIIT training. I'm doing something fast.
Okay.
Something fast and short. On Wednesday, I'm doing something, whether it's kind of heavy, and it's a lot of volume. It's kind of heavy, so I'm taking whatever I did on Tuesday, and maybe I'm switching up. I'm doing squatting, and then I'm hinging, and then I'm pushing something, then I'm pulling something. Because then on Thursday, I'm going to do something that is long, and it's for some type of time, and it's a lot of volume, but it's super light. Then I get to Friday, I'm going to do something that is body weight only. Body weight only. I'm going to mix up the times. I'm going to go slow tempos, 3 seconds down, 3 seconds up. I'm going to put my own physical body under a lot of tension with really slow reps. And then on Saturday, I go for a hike. I do something long, maybe with a vest, or I do something that doesn't require me picking up so many weights. I want to give my body a second under just normal load. Then on Sunday, I rest. I do yoga, maybe I go for a walk, do something that makes you happy, because at the end of the day, if you're not happy, who cares? You're not going to have adherence anyway, whether that's a massage, whether that's on Sunday, like today's Sunday here, it's Sunday everywhere except for Australia and Japan. I do something that, whether that's spending time with family, because I've had clients that get so involved in the weight loss journey that they end up having issues in the other sections of their life, because all of a sudden they stop hanging out with their kids. If you have kids, they stop because they work 9 to 5 and then they go train for 2 hours and they got their meals and then they kind of forget about their actual family. So we don't want to do that either. So make sure, I tell a lot of clients that I start to see that is Sundays Sunday's family day. Sundays you hang out with your family, because mentally it gets you jacked up for the rest of the week. So that's the weight loss journey is about, number one, adherence, and number two, the ebb and flow throughout your week. Notice every day was something a little bit different. We're still touching the barbell, the dumbbells, we're still lifting, but we're giving our body different stimulus, a different thing to look at every day.
But you don't have like a days of like just cardio, like just running or just.
If it is, it'd be a Saturday, but honestly, with the joint impact for me isn't worth it. So I would swim. I would swim, but
or
for me, the joint impact, or bike, correct. It's never a bad thing to get some type of sprint in every day, as long as we're not overloading the volume.
Got it. Okay, back to the interview questions. Can you give us a crash course on working the muscle? So we hear different terminologies that are thrown in the group. What is, for example, muscular hypertrophy, endurance, muscular strength? What is the purpose of each of them?
So muscular hypertrophy, well, actually, we'll start at the end of the spectrum, which is muscular endurance. Muscular endurance typically is anything beyond 12 repetitions. In the textbooks, they'll say 12 to 15 reps. We know that is slightly untrue. The human body doesn't, as I say, as I'm going through this, I'll say this now, is the human body or our muscles, last time I checked, don't have a calculator. They're not counting reps. So we shouldn't worry too much about reps when it comes to things, because it's not really, certain ends of the spectrums, it does matter because of the load. But when in terms of reps, a lot of people get so hyped up in reps, they forget that your body's not counting. It just cares whether you went under tension or not. Did you do what I asked you to do or not? And that's how I get better. So the first thing is muscular endurance. Muscular endurance is anything beyond 12 reps, really. Anything that's going to put your body under fatigue. Muscular endurance is, in its own sense, putting our cells under more oxygen, more work, under more fatigue. So it's going to increase mitochondrial density a little bit more, which just means the health of our cells in terms of functionality, because basically it's aerobic resistance training is muscular endurance. The funny thing is muscular endurance can also be going for a swim, bike, or run, because each step or each paddle is a rep. So muscular endurance is a very wide spectrum. I think anything that you're doing for a long amount of time is muscular endurance. Then we have muscular hypertrophy. Muscular hypertrophy now is, we're dialing it down a little bit in terms of reps. Now I put reps in quotations because now we know that muscle doesn't have a calculator. So it's all gross amounts. Muscular hypertrophy then is anything below 12 reps all the way down to about 6, 7, 8. So for a professional powerlifter, muscular hypertrophy is 6 reps. But for someone hasn't trained in years or is an untrained individual, muscular hypertrophy could be 10, 11, 12 reps. So it just all depends on the dial or where we're at in terms of training. So that's muscular hypertrophy. Muscular hypertrophy is kind of heavy and a lot of volume. When we're talking about muscular hypertrophy, we're talking about 3 mechanisms that achieve that. It is muscular damage, metabolic stress, and mechanical tension. That means I'm really focusing on the squeeze. When we think of muscular hypertrophy, think of Arnold, think of your classic bodybuilding. That's muscular hypertrophy. They're going for the maximum amount of damage I could create to grow the biggest amount of muscle.
Okay.
That's what hypertrophy is. It's how can I increase muscle growth? How can I increase muscle size? When we talk about muscular strength now is we dial back the reps more because we're increasing the load. We've increased the load. Now we can increase the strength. Muscular strength is everything from 8 all the way down. This is where hypertrophy and strength starts to meld together, because we have an untrained individual. We're not going to take them all the way down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reps. Why? Because they don't have the technique to even handle that amount of load to achieve that result. So they're going to start at 8 reps. They're going to start 8 reps because untrained individual, anything you give them is going to help increase their strength. True strength, as they start to develop technique, is going to be 5 reps and below. So your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s. That's what's going to help the most with muscular strength. Because now the point of muscular strength is not necessarily to grow mass. You will grow a little bit of mass or maybe a little bit of muscle tissue, but not necessarily in the bodybuilding sense. Really what you're going to achieve when you have muscular strength is you're going to achieve muscular health. You're going to have healthier tissue. You're going to be able to handle more load, but you're not necessarily going to get bigger. You have to eat big to get big at the end of the day. And I think a lot of times
the type of tissue you were talking about, like the type 1, type A tissue. Okay.
Correct. So the 2A tissue is primarily in muscular hypertrophy and muscular strength. You can achieve it in both domains. It just depends on what is your goal. If your goal is pure weight loss, again, having a mix of both is always the best because you're going to have more adherence that way. Unless your sport is powerlifting.
Amazing. Okay, so you have such an inspiring story about overcoming injury, physically, emotionally, mentally. It made you completely change your career path and gave you time to really do some soul searching to figure out who you really are. Can you share your story with the community?
Yeah, so many soul searching moons ago, a young Kara was on her 4th ACL surgery and kind of couldn't figure out what was next and went a little bit crazy. I'm still crazy, but in a decent way, not in the way of I'm going to explain now. Is back in 2010-ish, more 2010 it started, and then 2011 I ended up being hospitalized with an eating disorder, which when you say that, they're like, well, it doesn't come out of the blue. Clearly I've had these traits my whole life, and I had a very traumatic moment since losing my basketball career that led to that huge life crisis of, oh my God, I don't know who I am anymore. Who is Kara? Essentially what happened is I completely lost myself. If I don't have basketball, I don't have me. I'm a loser on this. I'm not strong enough. I can't handle it. All those thoughts we all know and love come into your head, and we have an oh crap moment. I had a big oh crap moment, and when what I call a completely blackout, emotionally blacked out, which kind of looks like a zombie if you talk to them and you're trying to say everything you can and they just they're not waking up. That's kind of what happened to me.
Wow.
And
that's the opposite of who you are now.
Correct. So, but that was a very key or pivotal point in my life, is because, I was 20. So unlike when I was 3.5 and had my lung surgery, now I'm 20 and now I'm impressionable. Now this is going to stick with me. Where you asked me about my lung and they're like, oh, anytime someone says, wow, that's amazing, I can't believe you went through that. I don't remember it. I was so young. So to me, it wasn't really an impression. It is what it is. It's who I am. But I didn't think when I was 20, when this happened to me, I didn't think that's who I was. I didn't know who I was. And that moment helped me figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. And I think for me, that's the big difference. Is now this is an experience that was going to form and mold me, because now I had to figure out what I wanted to actually do with my life. And at the time, I didn't know how to handle it. And I handled it instead through just not eating or, going through different eating disorder traits, like throwing up, exercise bulimia, which is just when you exercise for hours and hours because you had a cracker. I was really good at that one. that was one of my favorites back in the day. Was the eat a little cracker and then do cardio, go on the elliptical for 4 hours. That was my fave. After years, after maybe about a year-long period that I got away with it hardcore before I really destroyed my body. And it got to the point where it was very noticeable. I really destroyed my body. I'm about 150 pounds right now. I was 95 pounds at the time.
Oh, wow.
So it got really thin really fast. And ended up being hospitalized because my heart beat was only 2 beats away from starting cardiac arrest.
Wow, that's
so
scary.
Once that occurred, so that was a moment. Got through it and ended up being put in the hospital right away. Put in the hospital right away because the head cardiologist had to come down and say, actually, clinically speaking, we can't let you leave this hospital. So you actually have to be admitted, because anything with eating disorder, it's funny because you could be on your deathbed and they still give you a choice. Like, you don't actually have to go because it's still a choice. But I was at the point where, like, actually, no, you don't have a choice. Like, you have to stay here now because that's what happened. I went through a couple years of therapy, though, everything. I feel like everyone's been in therapy at this point, especially in America after the pandemic. Went through years of that and real soul searching to try to figure out, okay, well, again, who is Kara without being a full-time athlete? And what it came down to. What it came down to is figuring out who I was socially, who I was emotionally, who I was with even academics, who I was around people. Especially the social environment was a big thing for me. And once I started to understand that, is when I started to understand what I actually want to do with my life. And that was the big ticket and that's when I actually became healed. In a weird sense, understanding who I was socially helped me understand who I was in all other aspects of my life. And from there, I started to understand what my true strength was and how much I actually wanted to help people. I just couldn't figure out how. And when I figured out how, through the fitness industry, through meeting Dr. WWLI, through coaching basketball, which I didn't ever think I would coach basketball. I started coaching basketball around the country, and I realized what really lit me up, or was lit a fire underneath me, which was really pouring myself into myself, but so I could pour out to other people. And through my story, through my passion for fitness and helping athletes and helping others understand that they are better than their circumstances. Wow. They're better than themselves. I mean, for years I didn't think I was better than myself, and that can be very detrimental to your own strength. Once you realize that you can be better than your own self, was even a second ago, that's when real things happen. That's when actual progress happens.
Amazing. It's so inspiring.
Thanks.
We have a lot of women in the group that are currently injured, me included, and my co-founder included.
Oh no!
We're currently bummed out about it. I have a shoulder injury, and my shoulder, like my shot, my shot arm, and
no balling.
No balling for me, unfortunately. Yeah. I'm benching most of the days now. So, do you have advice to us about how to continue with your fitness goals even with an injury?
Yes. Whatever you can't do the opposite. So if I have a shoulder injury, I can still walk, I can still squat, it doesn't have to be a back squat. We could use the kettlebells to the side. We can use the kettlebells in front. We can use bands. There's so many variations to an exercise that we tend to forget. We tend to just see the barbell and think all we can do is barbell work, when there's kettlebells, there's dumbbells, there's bands, there's ankle weights, there's boxes, there's steps, there's parks, there's pools, there's playgrounds, all the P words. There's all we always have the ability to do something regardless of the injury. I mean, of course, the biggest thing is taking care of the injury first, but we also need to keep our mental state right. So when I was injured, I got to the point where I was doing 1,000 push-ups a day because I couldn't single leg push a day because I didn't have my legs, or I didn't have my one knee. So all I did was push-ups, and I guess what? I got very, very good at push-ups and pull-ups. Very good. To the point now where I don't understand how you haven't done pull. I could not do pull-ups all week, and I'll just jump on a pull bar and just knock out 10. Strict pull-ups, just because I spent so many years, just 2 years in particular, with knee surgeries, where all I could do was pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups.
Amazing.
So I got to the point where I was so good, and the best are the best in the world are the best for a reason, because they love the monotony. They love the boring stuff, the things that people think are boring. They love it. Michael Jordan wasn't Michael Jordan, Kobe, Usain, I could go down the list. They're the greatest because they took the little thing that everyone hated and they made it fun. The detail. Squatting every single day because of our shoulder might feel annoying, but if you learn to love it, you're also learning how to become one of the best. And you learn how to become better, because the little boring things that everyone knows and loves are actually the ones that we need to do more of.
Amazing. I guess because I'm used to like the CrossFit, like in terms of the community, like what gets me up in the morning. It's not necessarily the workout of CrossFit, but my girls that I'm gonna see like in the morning, and like my 8 a.m. crew that I see. And with the shoulder injury, when I get to the CrossFit wall, like there's not that many like exercises that I can do. I mean, like everything needs like the shoulder, I find, but I guess I need to find like the right modifications. Like there's no way I can do like a pull-up at this point, like with my shoulder, or like.
What about a TRX, a ring row?
Also a ring row. I thought about it. I need like both hands, right? So it's like
you do a single arm ring row, a rotary press row with one arm. There is also in terms of the CrossFit boxes, there's also there should be a variation wall, but another chance is, when instead of squatting lunge, maybe instead of if you're doing any type of pressing movements, you can do either a Superman hold or a push up, if you can perform a push up with the shoulder, depending on where the injury is, or you go on the ski erg or go on the rower.
Yeah, even the rower, I'm like, I need to find. I'm just start being creative with the bands, maybe, like you said, like forget about the bar for a few months and get creative.
Yeah, with the band, you can get very creative with the bands, and I think the best way to go about it is when you get back to the gym at 8 a.m. is ask your community for help, like make it into like a little team effort to figure out what's the best exercise we could come up with, because it is fun to think of things that you could do with band that works. Okay, you know what, this feels good, or no, it doesn't feel good, I'm going to do this instead for some modification. And also, regardless if you actually get a full-blown workout in that hour, at least you're around your community.
That's true.
Mentally, that's important.
A good idea. Make it a game. How to help Sarah work out.
Exactly. Okay, and they'll love it because
they're helping me, and that's part of the community.
Exactly.
Okay, women who lift Israel's community of strength training is growing every day, and more than half of our members identify themselves as completely new to all forms of strength training. So, what advice do you have for women who are just starting in their lifting journey?
Start with, you got to earn the right to touch weights. Your body is actually a resistance training tool. So first, earn the right. Learn your body weight first. Learn your own body first. There's things like animal flow out there that help us to understand movement mechanics and how our body walks, runs, or gait patterns. So that's very important. Another thing that's very important is having the right practitioner or coach alongside you. A lot of times we don't want to do this alone. No one is alone in this world, so let's not pretend we are. Find someone that can help educate and inspire you to continue to move forward. Because at the end of the day, we could pretend all day long that we can just do all the workouts by ourselves. But even myself, I noticed when I started to get down that I need to start being around people, even training with people in the gym again. I need to grab a teammate and say, hey, want to do upper body, want to work out tomorrow together.
Yeah.
Because even myself, you're not alone. You need people in your corner, so that's very important as well to start you along the journey.
That's why we're here. That's why we have our community.
Correct.
Amazing. So, what's next for Kara? What goals do you have for 2021? And I know you're launching your app very soon. Maybe you want to talk to the community about your app.
Yeah, I'll shoot a link as well. But my app is essentially, I want to make it not only an educational platform, but why it's taking so long. I don't realize how much there's a lot of work to build the platform out. Is also I want it to be very community based and give everyone the ability to. Yes, there's going to be your basic programs out there. They're all going to be different bands, kettlebells. I want to make it as abstract as possible to the norm in terms of programming. Now, that doesn't mean wackadoo, just more scientifically backed versus just giving you the basic bodybuilding or chest and back. So that's kind of but also educational, because there's a whole section where I'm able to put you basically YouTube videos up on there, or snippets every day of tips or education. Because at the end of the day, you can do all the programs in the world, but if I'm not teaching you, any practitioner isn't helping you learn, then I'm not doing my job, because I should be able to help you not need me anymore. If you still need me years after, then I didn't do my job. And that's my biggest problem with this industry, is everyone keeps everyone dumb so they can keep making money off them. But the point is to make them better so that they don't need you anymore, is the point of the industry. So that's the big thing there. That's what's next. That's kind of the big thing of what's next.
That's amazing.
The other is the basics of, moving, and you got to find a new place here in California, and understanding or figuring out, where I'm going to go for after the app, where I'm going to go for next. And then going out to New Jersey.
To move there, or just for family?
Just to see family. Yeah, that's the closest thing. That's just to see family. Yep. Actually, to see Dr. 𝗟𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗋.
Also.
Yeah.
So I would love to give you the opportunity to talk directly to our members about anything that is important to you that we haven't covered already. I know we've covered a lot. Is there anything you would like to share with our community?
I think Sarah did a great. I think we covered it all.
I really milked you for all the info.
Yeah. I think we did pretty good today, even with the little plug too.
Awesome. I'm going to feature some of the questions we got, because we're almost at the end of our interview. So how do you know how much recovery you need between workouts?
How sore are you, and what's your goal? How sore are you, and what's your goal? If your goal is to have muscle mass, or to gain more lean, healthy muscle tissue in terms of mass, then we don't want to be sore for more than 72 hours. But it's okay to be sore within 72 hours. If we've done a workout and we're sore for more than 72 hours, that's a problem. Where that's our muscles telling us we train a little too hard and we did a little too much. That gives us a high risk for injury. But should we be sore every workout? No. I've had plenty of workouts where I'm not sore the next day. So soreness is not an indication of a good workout. But if we're trying to be strong, we can have pure strength training every day, and not necessarily be sore, and we're getting stronger. So it just depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to actually gain muscular hypertrophy or mass, or maybe lean muscle tissue, and we're not necessarily trying to be as strong or lift as much as possible, then we should have some muscle damage. We should have some type of soreness, or not necessarily always soreness every day, but we don't want to be sore for more than 72 hours. Recovery depends on where we're at. If you're a trained individual and you've been training for years, then we could train every single day. But if we're just starting off, we might be training only 2 to 3 times a week. So it depends on where we're at in terms of how much recovery you need between workouts and the amount of volume you're putting in. If you're putting in 3 hours on Monday, maybe you're taking 2 days off before, and then you hit it again on Thursday. Maybe you're doing Monday, Thursday, Saturday. Just depends.
You basically just answered our next question. Is there such a thing as exercising too much? If you don't feel that sore, can you work out every day?
If you don't feel that sore and you feel great, then yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can go every day. I train every day in some capacity, and now it's not always this hard charging workout or training session every day, but it ebbs and flows based on how I'm feeling. Like lately, I've had a lot of sessions of just easy, not a lot, easy, because I've been life stress been high, so exercise stress I take down. Once my life stress gets a little lower, then my exercise stress goes up, because we don't want stress and stress. So as much as my ego doesn't like it, I have to ebb and flow through those things.
And what is the difference like, I want to maybe prevent like my next injury, God willing. What's the difference between like being sore and being like almost injured? Like, how do I click in my mind like, oh, sorry, I should be stopping that movement. This is like making like, this is dangerous, Like, is there like advice on
the big key? Yeah, the big key is again the 72-hour rule of soreness is the one, but in the moment acutely. So in the moment acutely, the rule is if I'm like my shoulder, yesterday I was doing overhead squats the first time in goodness knows how many months, and I felt a little pinch in my shoulder. And I knew it wasn't muscle soreness because nothing else felt sore. But I felt it right there. So acutely, if even though it feels fine the next day, that's your body telling you, like, this is about to happen. Just so you know, if you don't stop, this is about to happen. So body awareness is a big thing. That's why meditation got so popular. Is having body awareness and being able to understand acutely if listen, like this is not hurt right now, but if you think tomorrow you're going to be able to do the same body movements again, you're going to get hurt. So acutely listening, like if you're having a little bit of hip soreness just in one hip or one section of the body, I would listen to that, because if you don't take that day or two to recover, then we're going to get hurt. Then we might get hurt. Everything is a depends scenario.
Amazing. Okay, so we're at the end of our interview, and honestly, I learned so much from you. Like, thank you so much. I enjoyed like every single second of it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sarah.
To end the interview on a positive note, give us a few last words of inspiration from the heart. Maybe what is your motto in life? Anything you want to say to our community for inspiration?
Oh, I think the biggest inspiration is the biggest thing you're probably not doing or avoiding. So in life, we always want to avoid the hard things, and we don't want to allow ourselves to be soft on the soft things. So let's not avoid. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to scream, scream. If you need to laugh, laugh, and don't hold back, because at the end of the day, you're only holding back from your own self.
Amazing. I also want to give you the opportunity to tell our followers where to find you. Instagram, Facebook, just lay it out for us.
So on my Instagram, it's a name that I will not change. I had it since the inception of Instagram. It is 𝗂𝗟_K0. That's Killer K0 KIL. It's 1L ERK0. And then on Facebook, it's Kara Lazauskas, or Kara Kelly Lazauskas on Facebook. I'm very more active on Instagram, even though I'm terrible with social media sometimes, than I am Facebook. But you can also find I'm doing an email inquiry list right now from my app, which is just, you can actually, if you go to my Instagram, you can see the link on there. Links in my bio for that. So you can click on it and register. It's only going to be $1 a month for the first couple of months. So that makes it really easy and cheap.
That's for the app? That's for the app?
Yeah, for the app. Yeah. It's only $1. So it makes it really cheap.
Awesome. Amazing.
Yeah. That's where you can find me.
Amazing. Thank you for your time, Kara. Nice chatting.
Thank you, Sarah. Have a great one, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.